Welcome to Takeover, the most underrated sports debate show on YouTube. I know you guys. What happened? You guys were just in a studio. Now it's back to the struggle set. Things happen, so but we gotta keep it going. Whether it's 5 a.m., 5 p.m., 10 p.m., y'all don't get this
Midnight.
content, man. Y'all don't get this content. I think it's currently 5:22.
That it is. As you guys all know, my name is Josh.
My name is Deandra.
It's your boy Cam, and this is Takeover.
Yo, hey champ. Yo, we play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition already ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Park it right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm a face. And when I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M. I need a couple.
So, diving into our first topic of the day, the NFL season is about to kick into swing. The first game is tomorrow. We're filming this on Wednesday. Because this is a tradition, time-honored tradition in sports. Who are your early season Super Bowl picks, guys?
So out of the AFC, I'm going with the Browns. Believe it or not, I think the Browns are going to be the team in the AFC to come out. And here's why. Because I feel like everyone's talking about the Chiefs, but this is the one team that can beat the Chiefs. They're very anti-Chiefs because they're a very physical team and they run the ball. When you think about that, they're going to rule time of possession versus a lot of teams, and they'll be able to stop teams on defense. You look at time of possession, they already have a two-headed monster with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb that's already caused problems. And I know I'm a guy who says offense wins championships nowadays, and I feel like everyone's going to kind of discount the Browns offense because it's more of the run game, but that's still part of offense. And I feel like a lot of teams are going to struggle, especially like down the line, and get worn out by this great Cleveland O-line and the way their running backs have. Another guy I've been high on that Josh has not been very approval of is Baker Mayfield. In my opinion, this is going to be his breakout year. And I'm going to go as far as saying I have Baker Mayfield as my early MVP pick for this year. I think Baker Mayfield is about to have an explosion. You've heard it first here. I think Baker Mayfield is an early MVP candidate. Last year coming off of 26 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions, and finished top 10 in QBR. And he has Odell Beckham Jr. coming back. He has Jarvis Landry and Austin Hooper. I think this is the time Baker Mayfield ascends and officially becomes that guy. And I don't really have to get into it a lot about Cleveland's defense. You know they have Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and you have Mack Wilson in the middle. So I feel like this defense is also going to make timely stops. So I'm going with the Browns to beat the Chiefs or whoever comes into that AFC Championship. I'm going with the Browns. In the NFC, literally I tried to form any kind of take, try to find every illusion how the Buccaneers wouldn't win, and I just simply couldn't. I mean, you look at it, this is probably the first super team in the NFL that I've ever seen. Like, they're stacked everywhere. They have the best receiving core. They have the go-dat quarterback. They have the best linebacking core. They still have Todd Bowles. They had all 22 starters come back. I don't see how they don't win. So, Browns and Buccaneers in the Super Bowl.
Coming out of the AFC, I actually chose the Cleveland Browns too. So, like you said about Baker Mayfield, right? I was a person, how you can go back and look at my takes. I was not high on Baker Mayfield at all, but after watching specifically the end of the season, them going into the playoffs, you saw how accurate he could be. You saw his strong arm, and you saw, especially in that game against the Ravens, how his playmaking came into the picture. And like you said about the running back position, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they're both explosive, and some may say that they may get to be predictable at sometimes when it comes to that type of offense, but if you can't stop it, you just can't stop it, no matter if you know it's coming or not. And like we said, the receiver position, they have route runners and deep threats. And like I believe that although Odell Beckham Jr. was injured last season, before he got injured, he was still being rather productive. He was still explosive. He was still great at running routes, and he was still had great hands. And they have Jarvis Landry and all those other receivers. And they did draft Anthony Schwartz too at the same time. You can look at their offensive line. You already talked about that, so I'm not going to really harp on that too much, but I do believe that on paper that this team or this offensive line has really no weak links. And you look at the secondary, They drafted a linebacker, which in my opinion was a very slept on pick. You have Jeremiah Owusu Karamoa. He was a really good linebacker from Notre Dame, but a lot of people slept on him because he had a heart condition. So that really kind of hindered a lot of people from drafting him. But in my opinion, that's a sleeper pick. You have Greedy Williams and Grant Delpit, who will be coming back, and if they stay healthy, they can have a great impact on that team as well. And they added depth with the defensive backs from the Rams too, with John Johnson and Troy Hill as well. And like you said about the defense with Myles Garrett, this is a player that forces offensive coordinators to change up their game plan. This is a player that has 35 sacks in a span of 40 games. And then they have the guy, Tre'Davious Clowney. And many people think that he's not going to be really productive, but I believe he can be a solid number 2, especially paired with Myles Garrett as well. He could be productive as well. So that's who I have coming out of the AFC. For the NFC, I didn't want to pick the Buccaneers because I felt like that was kind of predictable. So I went with the Rams. Although they did lose some pieces, I still believe that they can still be productive and they still have a chance of going to the Super Bowl. I like how they got Raheem Morris. He accomplished something with the Falcons that Dan Quinn couldn't do, and he actually got them to play a little bit of defense in the short amount of time that he was there. I believe he'll be able to make adjustments to best fit the players and fit the players' strengths as well. I know they lost Cam Akers, but I still believe that they'll be able to have a decent run game with Henderson and Sony Michel. They won't be like as explosive as Cam Akers was, but I still believe they'll be able to be productive. When you look at their receivers, they have versatility and speed. When you look at Robert Woods, he's reliable, consistent. He's really a jack of all trades. And, of course, Cooper Kupp, he's physical. He's an excellent run blocker, and I believe those two paired together can be a great pair. I'm also looking at their secondary. Obviously, they have one of the best corner duos in the NFL with Jalen Ramsey with his size and speed. He can basically match up with anybody. And also looking at Darius Williams, too. And, of course, last but not least, I'm thinking about the addition of Matthew Stafford. You know, he could throw a deep ball. He can navigate through pressure. He has arm talent and accuracy. And he's definitely an upgrade from Jared Goff. And in my opinion, last year, that he was one of those players that kind of held them back from going so far. So I believe that now they had an upgrade at the quarterback position, and of course the defensive coordinator in the mind of Sean McVay. I believe that they have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. So those are my picks: Rams versus the Cleveland Browns.
You know, I didn't think anybody would be able to have a take about the Rams and not talk about Aaron Donald, but I'm impressed. Good job.
Oh shoot!
No, it's you don't have to talk about him because everybody knows who he is.
But see, like I feel like that. Yeah, like I feel like that's kind of
it's implied, but anyway. Going into the NFC, I think is pretty quick and easy. You know, Dee said she didn't want to be predictable, but sometimes the predictable answer is the right answer when they're bringing back all 22 starters and their team was already great to begin with. If there's one thing I've learned in my young life, don't bet against Tom Brady because it tends to not, work in your favor. So until I see Tom Brady actually not play well, I think I'm going to ride with him. But I'm going to move over to the AFC because that seems to be where there's a little bit more. I think it's interesting. None of us are going to pick the Chiefs because I'm not picking the Chiefs either. And I'm not picking the Browns because I kind of tend to believe that the Browns are going to brown. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills.
I told you was going to do that last night. But go ahead.
For sure. Listen, I don't see why I would pick against them. All right,
Okay.
Kansas City got the great offense, and that's fantastic. But Kansas City's defense continues to get worse and worse and worse, and they continue to bleed talent. And the Browns, they have all these big names. They were like 26th last year in defense, and I don't think they've meaningfully fixed enough of their problems. I think they fixed the secondary. I don't know about the pass rush. In Buffalo, they got everything. They've got, on offense, they've got Josh Allen, who, you're talking about Baker Mayfield as an MVP. Josh Allen was there last year, and I think he'll be right back in the saddle. They've got Stephon Diggs, who is a top 5 wide receiver in the league right now. They've got the Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, Thunder and Lightning, Reggie Bush, Lindale White combo back there. They've got a solid offensive line full of people that you don't necessarily know, but that sometimes with offensive linemen, that's good, because the less you hear their name mentioned, the better. And then on defense, they've got Ed Oliver, defensive tackle, who has all the raw talent in the world. Mario Addison on the edge, and they just picked up Gregory Rousseau, who has looked like an absolute monster in the preseason. And then they might have one of the best secondaries in the league. They've got Tre'Davious White, they have Levi Wallace, and then they got Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. And on top of that, they've got Tremaine Edmonds, who's a playmaker and middle linebacker. So I'm going Buffalo just because I think they're the most well-rounded team, and I think that tends to win championships this year.
Okay. Moving on to college football, we've seen, I think the two teams that performed the best last week, I feel like had to be Alabama and Georgia. You saw a display of offense crazy from Alabama, and you saw Georgia's defense literally overwhelm the Clemson Tigers completely. So, this is kind of a, flip-sided question. But would you rather have, in this day and age, Alabama's offense or Georgia's defense?
So first of all, first thing I'll say, yes, Alabama played fantastic, but I've seen that out of Alabama before. I've seen that last year with Mac Jones, and I've seen it before him with Tua Tagovailoa, and I've seen it before him with, Jalen Hurts and all them. So it wasn't really a shock to me because in the end, Nick Saban's going to Nick Saban. But in this day and age, I feel like there are plenty of great offenses, right? There are plenty of great offenses out there that get burned by either mediocre or bad defenses. So just sticking in the college football playoff era specifically, you've got Oklahoma. They put up 48 points against Georgia in one of the semifinal games, and then they lost in double overtime. You've got teams like Oregon. Oregon always had a great offense, but they never really had the defense to help them out. And then you've got Florida State back in the the crab legs days. Their offense was great. They had all those playmakers, but their defense was like 50th or something in the nation in points per game. So a lot of these teams, you see, they had a great offense, but they got burned by the bad defense. And Cam, you like to say that offense wins championships. I have yet to really see a team that is great on offense but not great on defense consistently win.
Alabama last year.
But Alabama still had a mediocre defense. They still had a defense that could help.
It was okay.
They had their moments. They had the secondary that can make plays. I mean, You're talking about a team that had a defender drafted in the top 10.
For sure, we'll start saying. Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? I think that I would rather have Georgia's defense. But the fact that I would go with the reason I would go with UGA's defense is they're not even 100% right now. They're missing Tyke Smith, who was arguably one of the biggest transfers in this transfer window. And they lost another DB from last year in Tyreek Stevenson, who transferred, I believe, to Florida. It was one of those Florida schools. So, and not only that, the way that they pressured Clemson. I mean, Clemson's got an offensive line full of 5-stars, and they had Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, and Adam Anderson, Trayvon Walker, all pressuring him. And then the secondary, even without the two guys I mentioned, with Darion Kendrick, Lewis Sine, and Christopher Smith. I mean, they've got playmakers everywhere. So I would go with Georgia's defense because I think having a defense like that can shut down a 5-star quarterback, a bunch of 5-star running backs, and a Justin Ross who we've seen when he's healthy is fantastic. Being able to keep them to not even a touchdown and a fourth quarter field goal, I'm going with UGA's defense.
I actually chose Alabama's offense because although Georgia's defense was great, you still need to be able to score to win games. When you look at the landscape of college football now, Georgia's supposed to have one of, if not the top defense, right? But they still barely beat Clemson. They only won by 7 points. And then the 7 points that they did get, they got from a defensive interception.
So why would I not want the defense? They scored all the points.
But the chance of that happening like on a regular basis against all these other teams in college football, especially in the SEC or in other teams, I don't see that happening on a regular basis. So, but when you look at Clemson, right, they struggled on the offensive line, and DJ really struggled. He really couldn't get it going. But one thing that was good about Clemson was their defense, and they still could not win. So to me, I believe that's still a testament as to how you need to be able to score to win games as well. And although Georgia's defense is great, what's going to happen when you run into a juggernaut of an offense? Like some players you just can't stop. Some players you can only hope to slow down. So sometimes I feel like you can't just rely on that sentiment that, okay, we're just going to stop these certain players, because you don't know if you're going to be able to stop those players. And what's going to happen when you go against a mind and a coach like Nick Saban that can coach around that defense and figure out ways to beat you as well? What's going to happen when you run into a quarterback who doesn't necessarily struggle? A quarterback, like, I know we only saw one game, but Bryce Young came out and threw 344 yards and 4 touchdowns. He wasn't nervous. He went out there and he literally showed up. So what's going to happen when you run into a player like that? So I believe that you're going to need offense to be able to keep up with a team like Alabama. So that's why I chose Alabama's offense.
I'm taking Alabama's offense too. And history lesson, Josh. 2017, Bama's defense had the highest scoring defense, forced all the turnovers in the NCAA. They was number 1 in there. And then they played Clemson in the semifinals, won because the defense just kept scoring. Jalen Hurts was at quarterback. Then they go into the the championship game. They face Deshaun Watson and Travis Etienne and the whole entire Clemson offense. And they end up losing that game. Close game, but they end up losing. And then it starts a trend after that. Because you look at what Nick Saban did, I think Nick Saban himself knew that this having, not saying that Jalen Hurts was a lame duck quarterback, but him not having the highest powered offense, it may not work. Because before the trio, everyone knows Tua, Mac, and Jalen Hurts. You know, you have the guys in the picture together, they're all in the NFL now. There were kind of these basic quarterbacks at Bama. You had John Parker Wilson. You had Greg McElroy. You had A.J. McCarron. You know, guys who were basically game managers. And I feel like that worked earlier in times because defenses have the chances to be more physical. Nowadays, you really can't touch anybody. So you're telling me that you want more defense, but like how physical are you going to let that defense be? You saw that one hit on what's his name? Justin Fields, right? I thought it was a clean hit. And I think that's just physicality being shown on defense. But you can't really show that. And you know, as far as defense winning all, like Deandra said, Clemson was still in the game. Like, I mean, I know they struggled to score, but it was only 10-3. So your offense is really producing. The defense can only hold for so much. These guys can only hold these receivers for so much. And then we kind of see that changing. You know, I chose Clemson to beat LSU because I was like, okay, I think Clemson has the better defense when they played in the championship. It obviously didn't matter to Joe Burrow and the rest of those guys because it wasn't a close game. And then you see even in the NFL too, 49ers, overwhelming defense. You saw what they did throughout the whole season. Patrick Mahomes carves them up at the end of the day. And so I'm going to end up taking the guys who are going to be better on offense. And I think Ohio State even had a better defense than Alabama last year in the championship game. It didn't matter when it came to it. So I'm going to take the guys who are going to continually score because I don't believe that in this day and age, a defense will be able to stop that. Even last year in the Super Bowl, we saw a defensive masterpiece by Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but that was with both tackles hurt. And Patrick Mahomes was still making passes. The Chiefs were still dropping passes in the end zone. So I think in this day and age, it's shifted into more of an offensive game, which I personally don't like. But I just see the trend going, and I would rather have the offense nowadays.
It's a valid point. I don't hate what you're saying. I would rather, and when I'm thinking about it, I'd rather take the thing to where I put less pressure on the offense because then they don't have to be perfect every time. Take it from me as an Atlanta Falcons fan. Having to, watching your team put up 29 points and then lose by 7 is not fun. So I think having a defense that can at least like limit the damage to where you only have to score 10 points to win by 7, and you don't even really have to score all 10 of those points. I think that's just in the long run better because you're right, the defense can only hold for so long. So you do need something of an offense, but when you have an offense but no defense, then the offense has to be perfect all the time.
So you become the Chicago Bears.
Say that one more time.
So you then become the Chicago Bears.
You hope you don't, but I mean that's different because they have Mitchell Trubisky.
No, but they've had I would arguably say they have the most weapons on defense all the time. And Khalil Mack, you had Kyle Fuller, you had Eddie Jackson. The whole team is built on defense.
Yeah,
it just hasn't worked.
Well, you got to have a quarterback that's actually able to get the job done. But
you would need the offense then.
You need something of an offense, but I think a good offense with a bad defense is worse than a mediocre offense with a great defense.
Okay. I'll leave you there. I'll leave it to you there. Mm-hmm. That is going to wrap up our episode. Do you guys have anything to say?
You need to subscribe because we're waking up at 5 a.m. for you guys.
5 a.m.
4:30 actually. That's when I woke up. I don't know when these guys woke up. But why would you not subscribe when we're making these kind of sacrifices for you, you know? Yeah. So hit that big red button. Show some love.
You got anything?
Like we always say, guys, don't forget to send in your takes. We want to react to you. We care about what you have to say, and we want to interact with you guys. So please send in your takes.
All right, get ready for the crab leg band to take over the NFL. Jameis Winston's coming. That's all I gotta say, Josh. Take over out.
Yeah, we play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Poker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Not that holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm facing. When I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M. I need